Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. And what happens at Friday at 11 a.m.? It's 11 a.m. It's Real Estate Talk TGIF. This is episode 327. My name is Dave Finale, and I have the one, the only, Mr. Haas Pratt, the listing boss, the man, the myth, the legend of listings, and it's great to have this guy on. We became fast friends a number of years ago when he was on for the first time, but this is his third time on the broadcast. And he's just he's always out there giving back to the people that are interested. You do all kinds of webinars, all kinds of free shit, and you give back, and that is amazing because your stuff works. You did it all, and you made it all work. It all worked for you, and this is stuff that's helping thousands of people out there, man. I mean, I remember when I first came on and heard about you. I started using your stuff and just from free stuff, from free webinars, man. And it's just amazing. So I want to thank Haas Pratt for coming on today. And, man, we're going to get started in a minute. Nelson, hit the videotape. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. We're also brought to you by the Align team, which is here in Northern New Jersey, North Carolina, Maryland, and Florida, with the leader of Brett Sikora. It's a great team. I have the pleasure of being their growth manager. So Align is really up and running, and we're doing a great job with everything we do. We work with a lot of great agents, and we're really happy to do that. And we are here with Haas Pratt. Haas Pratt, the listing boss. Hey, man, tell me about, where you started, how you got here, and how important the past few years have been. And then we'll get into the typical questions we know we're going to have today. So hit me, man.
Yeah, man. Well, Dave, it's great to be here. Thanks for all of our listeners for being a part of this today. I hope to leave you all better than I found you. Where I started is I've been in real estate for 20 years. So I got in when I was 21 years old. And I grew up in Missouri, in the country. I didn't go to college. I barely made it through high school. I'm dyslexic and ADD and all the other learning disabilities. So, my formal education ended like my 5th grade year. I didn't really get much out of the school. So I had to go figure things out on my own. And I had a mentor early on, Jimbo, that gave me several pieces of advice. One of the pieces of advice that he gave me was, you need to move. And then he said, you become a product of your environment. And I said, where do I move? He said, you belong in Dallas, Texas. And so he took me on my first airplane ride, and that was 9 hours away from my hometown where I grew up. And I moved to Dallas, and I moved there with the intention of starting a landscape company. I got a job in the winter because I was going to get the landscape business going that winter, but I got a job as a door-to-door salesman, and I was selling salon and spa coupons. And so I started going door to door when I was moved to Texas when I was 19, and I would knock 100 doors a day. And I did that for a few years. And that's where I learned how to sell. That's where I learned the power of persistence, positive thinking, every door, every floor. And then I started I started this door-to-door sales company. And one day, they didn't show up for their certificates, the certs that they sell. And I had a contractor that started her own business, and she took all of my salespeople. And like one day, literally all my door-to-door salespeople didn't show up to work. And so I was faced with, do I go rebuild the door-to-door company and go hire, which is not easy to do, which is finding people that'll knock 100 doors a day. And so about this time, I had a girlfriend who took me to her family reunion in San Antonio. I show up at the family reunion, and her uncle's wearing a shirt that said, ask me about real estate. And I go up to him. I'm like, man, hey, tell me about real estate. I heard you're a real estate agent, one of the top agents in the country. This was Brad Korn who was a Keller Williams agent, one of the top ones in the country. And long story short, he recruited me into real estate. I went and got my real estate license. I'm about 21, 22 at this time. I get into real estate. with a lot of goals, but I blew $50,000 in trying to figure this thing out my first 6 months. I was meeting 5 people a day, writing a handwritten note, putting them on a campaign, waiting for people to come to me. And it wasn't until I discovered the power of niches, specifically the for sale by owner niche, and where I could get a list of people that I could call every day to get their listings and to set appointments, that everything changed for me. So I took my door-to-door skills and I applied it to the phone. And I would get on the phone for 8 hours a day, and I would call for sale by owners. And this is my first year in the business. 6 months in, I took 30 listings in 30 days. I finished my first year of real estate rookie of the year, did 20 million in sales my second year. So at this time, everybody's wanting to know what I was doing and how I was doing it. I was a brand new kid, young kid in a market I didn't know anybody, taking a listing a day. I guess it was unheard of, they say. And so I started teaching classes and training my office and other local offices. And so that's how I got into coaching and training. I sold my real estate business after 5 years because I had a passion for helping other agents do this. And so, since then I've done thousands of seminars, for 15 years. I've coached and trained agents. And, but that's how I got into it, was people wanted to know how it is that I did it. And teaching other, and in real estate, agents need a lot of help. There's not a lot of models out there that they can follow that they can succeed. So that's my story, the short end of it. But, that's how I got going where I am today.
So, what's really interesting is that, you built your business, your listing business, and then you started helping people. And I that's a key for me. And it's always been difficult for me to be able to coach that and teach that and say, look, 9 times out of 10, if you're going for the money, if you're going to make a dime, you're going to make as much money as you can, rather than trying to help someone, you're really not going to get as far as you want to get. Some people will. There's no question about that. Some people have the skill to sell. And I think about that, Haas, and I look back at my life and what I've done. And one of the things that I've been able to do is realize that, I more want to help people, and I don't think about the money. So you did 30 listings in 30 days. Okay. How'd you do that?
Calling, prospecting, which is having conversations. So I know in real estate, we talk about prospecting. You can call it cold calling. Look, I don't look at calling for sale by owners or expired listings. These are people who want to sell their home. That is not a cold call. That's a warm, hot, smoking hot, sizzling call.
That's right.
So what I did is I had conversations with these people through the means of the phone, but the phone is the fastest, efficient, most effective way to have conversations. What people have to do, Dave, is they need to have more conversations. All of you listening, you need to have way more conversations with prospective sellers than you currently are. You're not having near enough meaningful conversations. And so if there's anything that you take out of today's training, it is that. It is that you need to have more conversations with prospective sellers. And then what happens is the more conversations you have, the more skilled you become at conversating on the topic of real estate, conversating on the topic of what you do different than your competitors, the value that you bring, the solutions that you bring to the prospect. And so those are all required. I mean, you got to, I know your topic is about skills. It's about building skills, and the only way you build that skill of selling real estate is by talking about real estate.
Yeah, it's the hard part is when people get their license. I mean, I think they look at their license so much where it says salesperson, where they think they've got to be different than the person that they were when they grew up. They got to this point, and they start talking like someone like who the hell are you? That doesn't sound like you. Who are you, right? Who's that person now making these calls to the for sale by owners, et cetera? And what I try to get them to do is, why don't you just be you? I mean, you're a really helpful person. You like to do things. You've got a great personality, a great attitude. Why don't you be that way on the phone? Haas, what's the key to getting people to do that, though? Because we see this all the time, and I'm sure you do too.
They're not having enough conversations.
It's just that they're not practiced enough.
They're not conditioned. So the key is conditioning. It's getting the words in you, getting like right now where I just sat up, like this is conditioning. It is in me. I believe what I'm saying. And that is authenticity. The authenticity is the most powerful force to leave the human body. And authenticity is believing what you're saying. When you believe what you're saying, you are convincing and persuasive, and people want to follow you and they want to meet with you. When you don't believe what you're saying, you don't deserve to meet with them. Why? Because you don't even believe in yourself. And so the key is to believe what you're saying so you can release the most powerful force to ever leave the human body, which is the power of authenticity. And from that place comes passion, comes energy, comes confidence, comes enthusiasm. And all of those things are the recipe for success in sales.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Is that so people are going to say, yeah, Haas, okay, I get it. I hear you. Yeah, Dave, I hear you. I get it. But you guys have been doing this a long time. It's easy for you. So
I did 30 listings in 30 days, 6 months into my real estate business, and I didn't know a single soul. So like, that's the story that you're telling yourself. Like I have helped in coaching. I've trained thousands of real estate agents, generated millions of dollars in commissions. Like I don't even know who I've helped. I've helped so many people. Like there's stories like this, like the 18-year-old who's 18, just got his real estate license, decided not to go to college, did what I told him to do, took 7 listings in a week, brand new to real estate. I recently talked to a guy named Ash. He's up there in Maryland, and he moved here from Iran. English is his second language. Less than 2 years ago, he was living under a bridge. He got a job as a construction worker. He did a few things that I told him to do. He took 5 listings in no time. Like that's the reality, is you can achieve and accomplish anything you want in life and business. If you are telling yourself, yeah, but that is your problem. Like, yeah, but maybe real estate's not for you. Maybe, then that's okay. But like those are excuses that you're giving yourself. You're giving yourself permission to fail. In fact, you've already failed, because the story that you're telling yourself, results are going to follow that story. And so, yep, you're right. You will not take any listings. You won't sell any houses, and real estate is not going to be a fit. Why? Because you've already, just that story alone. Yeah, but you guys, like that person will fail. So that's what I would say is you need to see success. You need to see the 18-year-old that takes a listing a day. You need to see me take 30 listings in 30 days. You need to see that Iran immigrant, that English is a second language, so it removes your excuses. Like, and that's what my advice is like, then find what it is that you need to find, but you're looking for the wrong thing. There's plenty of stories of failure, but I don't know about you, Dave, but I'll do whatever it takes not to fail. I will persist until. I coach that you persist until what? Until do it like that right there. Let me remind you that you're in commission sales. You're unemployed. Like, you don't get paid until you have a closing. Like, that's real estate. Like, that mindset of, yeah, but that's not a commission salesperson. A commission salesperson that is successful is willing to do whatever it takes. They're always working on themselves. They're always checking their mindset, and they're always focused on the things that they can control, which is their actions that lead to the results. So, reminder, we're in commission sales.
That's a real important part. And everything you just said is I will be using it word for word. I basically do. Yeah, but that's the permission to fail. I love that. I love that part of it. Right. It's just a matter of I had a call today about scheduling with some of our agents, and I was talking about, when you say that I didn't have the time to do something, it means you didn't want to do it. If you want to say, yeah, but, it means you don't want to do it. Look, I get that a lot of this stuff that we have to do in our business to succeed is not stuff that you thought you would ever have to do. It's like, I want to get into real estate because I've seen all these TV shows and all this stuff, and I want the glam and all this shit, right? And I understand that you cannot judge a fish on their ability to climb a tree. Stupid saying, but what I mean by it is really simple. If you get into the business to just take people around, you're not going to do the calls and the work. So I'm not going to judge you that way, but how are you going to get the people to take them around? This is how you do it. So,
yeah, they don't teach you this in real estate school. This is the streets, This is the reality of the marketplace. Like, it is not sexy. It is not what they show you on TV. Like, real estate is easy. It's finding the buyers and sellers that's hard. Real estate is easy. It's finding the buyers and sellers that's hard. So once an agent understands that, they're able to take back their power. And that's what a lot of y'all need to do is you need to take your power back. You're waiting and you're feeding full of different stories that are preventing you from doing the things you got to do. You're blaming other people. And so to be successful, you got to take back your ownership of your success, ownership of you doing whatever it takes to succeed. And if you can't have a conversation about real estate, I mean, does that person deserve to be successful in real estate? No. The people that are successful are the ones that are good at it. So the marketplace isn't going to reward you for, it'll give you, the marketplace will give you some leeway, some room to grow, but like, you can't just sit on the sidelines and not get better and expect to get what it is that you want. The only way for you to get what you want is to get better.
That's right. That's right. And that takes practice. That takes actually doing the work. That takes planning. As I was telling a story today about planning, I mean, I'm in the process of moving. So the thing that's helped me the most and through all the bullshit and anxiety of that process is I planned out everything I have to do. It's all written down. It's this plan. It's a schedule. Mm-hmm. And that's going to help everybody do it. I mean, not everybody likes schedules and it gives anxiety, but I believe it helps making sure that you get the non-negotiables done. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think you're not here. I have a theory of this. This is the key is you're not going to work unless you're forced to work. So the one thing that's missing in agents' businesses is systems that tell them what to do. So how I was successful in let's say calling for sale by owners and taking listings is and this sounds simple, but this is really important because I never missed a day of prospecting. So I do understand because I coach so many people, but for me in real estate, I never missed a day. Why? Because I couldn't miss a day. If I miss today, that means that I have 300 phone calls tomorrow, and that's impossible to make. This is the day before, dialers, right? So if you're manually dialing, it's impossible to make 300 meaningful phone calls and have conversations with people in a single day. So the days would stack up. So leads would come in. I would put them in my CRM. I'd put them on a call campaign. The call campaign says day 0, call 1. Day 3, call 2. Day 5, call 3. Day 7, call 4. And all I did was I would do what the CRM told me to do. So when I log in, it says you have 115 phone calls to make today. Now I get to remove the thought of what I'm doing today. This is the key. You need to remove the thought of, well, what am I going to do today? If you stack up days of having to think about what you're going to do today, you have already failed. And so what you need to do is you need to get leads on campaigns. It could be a simple call campaign. Don't worry about the mailing and the texting. No, just a simple call campaign that keeps a lead in front of you. Now you just call those people today. And I tell people this, 9 to noon is the money making hours in real estate. You're a maker in the morning, a manager in the afternoon.
Thank you.
We make the business in the morning and we manage it in the afternoon. Well, what can I call in the evening? Yeah, but you're probably not going to be consistent and persistent enough unless you're following a daily method of operations. A daily method of operations is 9 to noon is when you're making phone calls. Nothing in real estate happens until noon anyway. What do I mean by that? Everything can wait until noon. The contract negotiations, getting back with people in a text message, replying to emails, all the things that mess with your flow need to be eliminated. Messing with your flow is preparing too long between each call. Okay, well, let's just see here. I got this expired. It expired. Like you haven't talked to the person yet. So there's no sense in preparing for a call that they may or may not answer. That takes your energy and it sucks the momentum out of the flow.
Right.
So you want to condense that time between calls. You want to remove the thought between calls. You want to sandwich that 9 to noon into not who's there next, boom, 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 boom. That's momentum. That's flow. That's this place that productivity becomes alive in. I learned that in door to door, like every door, every floor, 100 doors a day, not next, boom, boom, boom. It's a cadence. This cadence keeps this energy going and keeps you flowing. And you got to stop things that keep that will block that flow. So the problem that a lot of agents have is they never experience that. And so even me, I couldn't do it by if I'm like preparing between each call. I mean, I would be exhausted at the end of that. You want to condense it. It's a performance, and you got to show up for that performance, because then you get into flow. And getting into flow is you will meet the law of resistance the first 10% of everything. The first 10 calls are going to be hard. The first mile that you run is going to be hard. The first of everything is the law of resistance, telling you why you shouldn't do it, why it won't work, why you're not a fit. And so what happens is you got to get on the other side of the law of resistance, because that's where flow is. So every day you will experience the battle between you and the law of resistance. And in real estate and prospecting and doing what I'm talking about, it's your first 10 calls. Your first 10 calls are always going to suck. Your first 10 doors you knock are always going to suck. Like, you got to get through it and get beyond it, because that's where the flow you're looking for exists.
This is coming from a guy that's done it. And Haas, I got to tell you, I know where I got most of my stuff from. It's from you, because I mean, this is like the heart and soul of how I try to help agents a lot. So I got one thing before I go on to the next topic. And I want to talk about, in a lot of areas we get FSBO information. And let's say there's 15, 16, 17 FSBOs to call. One answers the phone, 15 don't. Okay, I did all the calls. Nobody answered. What do I do now? That's a typical question nowadays, because there's a lot of other avenues that people are going to listen to, and they don't answer their phone. You remember as well as I do, when we were growing up, when the phone rang, we ran to the phone to answer it. Now, I'm not answering that. You hit the other button and you're gone, right? But when I was growing up, I was the youngest of 8 kids. We ran to the phone to see who could answer the phone. Now nobody's answering the phone. So what do you say? What do you say to an agent? What do you tell an agent to do when they say, no one? I called 16 people, nobody answered the phone.
Today, you need to leverage text messaging in your approach to help get more people on the phone. You need to use a swarm method, leveraging more forms of communication, from direct mail to the phone to text messaging in your follow-up, because they may not be answering the phone. And I don't completely agree with that. I know that that's what a lot of agents tell themselves. The reality is they're not making enough contacts. So to them, nobody's answering their phone anyway. But a lot of people still answer their phone. And leverage in today's world, you have text messaging, where over 90% of people respond to text messages. So you want to use both. And it's not a text message like, hey, I see you're selling your property for sale by owner. I'm wanting to ask you some questions, right? It's like this. It's every text is designed to get them to respond. Hey, it's Haas. Do you have a minute? Hey, it's Haas. Are you available to talk for a second? Like, it's those that, and we have to put our marketing hat on how people would respond. We don't want to look or sound like a salesperson. We want to create interest.
I'm going to give you one, see what you think about it. Been trying to reach you. Is the house still available?
I don't like, I've been trying to reach you.
Okay. So how about, is the house still available?
Hey, I have a question. Hey, quick question. Is your house at 123 Main Street still available? You need to
Okay.
put in the address. You need to make it specific.
Okay. Awesome. So, guys, you said swarm method. What did you mean by that?
Swarm method is like a bunch of killer bees attacking something. It's hitting them from all angles. So, I mean, and I'll remind you, Dave, like when you say, back in our day, well, in our day, we didn't have email.
Right.
We didn't have text messaging. We didn't have social media. We didn't have video. We didn't have any of these things. So the excuse of nobody answers their phone, but like you have texting, social media, you have video, you have all of these other forms that like are better than just simply calling. And so you got to look at it like that. Like the swarm method is leverage all those things to reach more people. Like in today's world, for example, like, and I'm talking about FSBOs, but I mean, take any niche. Like I love the downsizing niche. I love the probate niche. I love the for sale by owners and the expireds and the canceleds and the withdrawns and people who need to sell their home, want to sell their home, and people that need my help. Pre-foreclosures. So whoever my niche is, here's what I'm going to do in a swarm method. I'm going to upload the Excel file into Facebook. I'm going to put them on the same campaign I put everybody on, and I'm going to make sure that they see my face in their feed while I'm calling, while I'm texting, while I'm mailing. They're also seeing me in the feed. Why? So I'm at top of mind awareness. So that's what a swarm method is if I'm going after a specific niche, I want them to see me everywhere. Best known beats best,
But if you're not friends with them on Facebook or on Instagram, how do they see you in their feed?
Through the backstage of Facebook, you can upload your target audience through a file and say, hey, I want you to target these people. And Facebook will put the ad in front of those people. You don't need to be friends with them.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So, everybody over the past number of months has been preparing for something and implemented a few weeks ago this whole thing with the changes with NAR of, dealing with, there are only 18 states that had buyer agreements in place that were required. And the other, if my math is right, 32 states plus territories have to do all that now. Talk about how this is an advantage to us as real estate agents, because we talked about this the other day.
It's a great advantage. I think you have to look at things like this and changes as an advantage. You have to find the opportunity. You have to create the opportunity out of thin air. But I've been in real estate 20 years, and there's one thing that I have always told people, including myself, and that is you got to list to last. You have to control your inventory. If you want freedom in real estate, you need to take listings. You need to be the listing boss. You need to be able to take listings and put signs in the ground. So it's no different today than what it was before, except today it's more important than ever in the sense of like the listing agent is the one who has the leverage and the power. So, no different than any time before. You need to be taking listings. Now, assuming that you're a listing agent, what you need to do is you need to go to fight and work for the buyer's agents. Like, well, do I not need to pay a buyer's agent commission? Is that what that means? No, that's not what that means. All that has changed is buyer's agents need to have to call the listing agent now. And what if they want to show a property? What do they say? Hey, are you paying a commission? Yeah, we're paying 3%. Like, that's it. The only thing is the buyers need to sign an agreement, which they always did. They always should have. I know in Texas where I sold real estate, every buyer signed a buyer's rep agreement. And so a lot of states have already been doing this. If you're in a state that hasn't been, then it's okay. Like a lot of us have already been doing this for many years. Right. So what I would tell you though is you have to fight for the buyer's agent. It doesn't mean that the buyer's agent isn't going to get a commission. So how do you do that? How do you convince a seller to pay, let's say, a 3% commission when they only don't want to pay any? A couple ways to overcome this is when you go on a listing appointment and one of the things I would be doing, and this is what I would tell you, all you guys, is not only are you going to pull comps, but you're also going to find out what they're paying commission wise. So if I have 5 comps, comparable properties on a CMA, I'm going to call those 5 agents and I'm going to ask what they're paying. Why? Because if they're paying 3, like I need the seller to realize that, the home that's just like theirs right down the road is paying a 3% commission. And if we're only paying 2 or 1 or 0, like right there, it's going to cost us money. It's going to make it hard to get the property sold fast for most amount of money because the buyer's agents are the ones with the buyers. And I look at it like this, Dave. You're paid based on the value you bring to the marketplace. Like, is the buyer's agent worth the commission? The answer is, of course they are. They brought the buyer. Like, how are you going to cut that person out of the deal that brings the buyer? That's not in alignment with economics, right? Like,
right.
Exactly. It's not like you. So it's that this whole thing is going to work itself out over the course of the next 60 to 90 days. Like, that's it. Like, we're going to have a new norm, and everybody's going to get in where they fit in, but we're not going to miss a beat. But it's going to create so much opportunity for the agent that can take listings.
I think one of the biggest problems that I've seen over the past few weeks, Haas, has been agents that have been like with their blinders on. It's like they heard that there's a change, but they've done nothing to educate themselves on it. How would you expect someone is taking a buyer out? How would you expect the listing agent to work with them? Are they going to hold their hands and get them through it? Should they do that? What's the process there? Because like I said, I've talked to a lot of agents that don't have a clue what's going on.
Well, they better figure it out.
Yeah,
because you're going to get fined by your MLSs. Same thing with listing agents. Like, there's going to be a lot of fines and lawsuits and things that will come from this. So, like, you just want to, you want to get with the program. Like, but yeah, the listing agent will need to carry the weight. Like, I mean, if I was listing homes today, then like I would be doing the work of the buyer's agent. I would ensure that the buyer's agent's already getting paid from my seller. I would not let a seller discount the buyer's agent commission. In that sense, if I'm listing a house and I'm paid to sell it, and they want me to sell the home fast and for the most amount of money, I will not let the seller convince me that they're only paying a buyer's agent 1%. Well, how do I do that? I'm going to sell them on why they need to pay the buyer's agent what they're worth.
Right.
And that's what you do. And so I'm not going to let them get away with, well, no, I'm going to let the buyer pay the buyer's agent. Well, what's the problem with that? A couple things. The buyer doesn't have the money to pay the commission. So if we're requiring the buyer, and we're only looking for one buyer on this listing, to pay the commission to the buyer's agent, like they're putting 20% down on the property to purchase it. They don't have the money to pay the buyer's agent. So we are literally going to cut our buyer pool in half.
That's right.
When we cut our buyer pool in half, we are not going to be able to sell the home for as much money as we could. And so we're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Let's say that 1%, let's say they're willing to pay 2, but they're not willing to pay 3. Let's say that 1% is $5,000. Like, that is nothing compared to the $800,000 that the property is worth. The good news that you have in real estate today is the sellers have equity. And like, that is your saving grace, is sellers have equity. Like, when I sold real estate, Dave, you remember this, back in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, sellers were bringing checks to the closing table.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
I certainly do, man.
So, like, I remember, like, the conversation was, well, I don't have the money. They had to borrow the money from somebody else in order to close.
Right.
And so we aren't in that environment today. We are in an environment that properties are worth more money than arguably in the history of the market. And so, no, there's no checks going to the closing table. If there was, I think that would be a whole different conversation today. If we are in a different market where the equity didn't exist.
Yeah, I want to bring up 2 points with that. Number one, you talk about, it's your job to make sure you sell that home and for the best price and to make the seller make enough money. If you're not paying a good buyer's agent to do their job really well, you're not doing your job with the seller to get them the most money, right? Because you've got to be able to compensate what we're all worth and what our value is. The second thing is that I want everybody to understand, listing agents especially, is that if you're going to use this process and this opportunity to say, hey, look, Mr. Seller, you only got to pay 3%. You don't have to pay a buyer's agent. I'm gonna save you more money by listing with me for 3%. That's all great, but wait a minute. So the seller has said, okay, well, I'm going to be able to put $200,000 in my pocket when I sell this house because of the 3% commission. Along comes a buyer and a buyer agent and is asking them to pay 3%, and you as the listing agent, you didn't do a great job. I'm going to say that right now. And you're going to say, well, Mr. Seller, you're going to have to pay another 3%. So whatever that is, let's say it's another 15,000. They've already spent that $200K. Now it's 185. As a listing agent, you didn't do your job. You didn't prepare them. You didn't control the situation. You agree with that? What do you think about that?
No, I totally agree with that.
It's go ahead.
No, I completely agree with that. And I think that you have to do your job as a listing agent. And look, Dave, like not everybody's going to do this. It's no different than real estate has been for years. I mean, the industry has a revolving door. People aren't willing to prospect. People aren't willing to build their skills. People that can't even talk about real estate. Like to those agents, yeah, I mean, it's no different, but you are going to struggle in any real estate market. So, I'm always reminded, I always compare everything to the 2008-9 market. I always look at that, like the compare and contrast. Like when you look at real estate, like when I got into real estate, people used to talk about interest rates used to be 19%. Boy, like you think it's hard now. You remember when interest rates were 19%? And
I do.
Yeah. Like, so the market has had seasons for decades, and every 10 years things change anyway. But like, I know for me, I've been in real estate 20 years. So I didn't experience the 19% interest rate. I mean, but homes sold and, you didn't have internet then, there was value in a realtor because you were the one with the data. So like there's that. But like, I remember in 08, 09, man, like that was brutal. Like I was on the road training agents and I would avoid states like California, Florida, Arizona, because the agents were starving there, losing their houses. Like it was brutal. So like when you look at this market, just know it ain't nothing like it used to be. Like, and so it's not that bad. And like, quit paying attention to what everybody else is talking about. I have a rule. So I tell people, quit listening to people, get out of the Facebook groups, quit commenting on posts, quit reading everybody's comments. That's the best thing you could do is own this thing. Don't compare your outsides to your insides to other people's outsides. Quit listening to everybody, and be action oriented, not outcome oriented.
Yeah, and I want to take that one step further when it talks about the groups and commenting and all this stuff. I want everyone to look at social media a little bit differently these days. One, it is, look, you know what? We all make bad decisions. We all, like, for instance, we all make bad investments. Like, I made a bad investment with a home warranty company for myself, and I'm pissed as hell. I would love to go on social media and blast them, right? But I can't do that. And that's not, what's that going to do for me, right? It's not going to do anything for me. People want to go on and blast people, or they want to go on a rant, or they want to do all this stuff. They want to comment in a pejorative way. Hey guys, you know what? Take the high road on everything you're doing on social media because you're going to look a lot better and have a lot more value. I just wanted to add that in because I know that, personally, I want to do shit like that too. And this all has to do with mindset. And it's one of the things that you specialize in with agents. And with all these changes and everything that everybody has to do, the mindset of the agent is very important. Okay, so where am I taking this? So one of the things about buyer agents that I've seen over the past few weeks is that, well, they're really cautious and they're really afraid to ask the buyer to sign the agreement. And what should I put and how do I put the amount? Is it mindset? Is it fear? Or they are just used to being doormen going to open doors and getting a check? Talk to me about that one.
You need to break the seal. So the reason you feel that way is because you haven't done it yet. And so much of success in this is you need to experience it. And experiencing it is like, if you're just sitting there and you haven't had the conversation with a buyer, like, you need to have the conversation, get the buyer to sign. And then after that first time, you're going to feel way better every other time. You got to break the dang seal. Like, it's kind of like listings. I take an agent and they're like, oh, I'm scared of sellers. It's because you've never been on a listing appointment. The moment that you experience setting a listing appointment, going on that appointment, getting the seller to sign, you will never feel that way again. Right. Because now you've proven that it works. You've experienced it. And so my advice is to all of you listeners is get out and get in the game, experience what that is, do it one time, and then that fear will cease to exist. And blame it on the lawsuit. Like, this isn't about you. This is about a lawsuit that took place. Like, it's required by law. Sign here. Like, every real estate agent on planet Earth, right, has to sign a buyer's agreement. Right? Every buyer, like, they got to sign something. And so you got to be able to experience what that is. And here's the thing. I know for me, like, in my real estate team, I still have a real estate team. I have 1,700 agents on that team, and they're all around the country. But, like, I've never not had a buyer sign an agreement. And so some people haven't because their state never required it.
Right.
But I have always coached that you need, it's best practices in the industry, right? Why would you be showing a buyer and working with a buyer that doesn't have any skin in the game? It's just get with the program.
Well, that's a conversation I had with a mastermind I did yesterday called the Solo Agent Mastermind with the Fast Forward Movement. And we talked about, I do a skills presentation once a month, and we talked about the old expression. Remember the expression, buyers are liars, sellers are yellers?
Yeah.
Right? That expression. And I said, buyers ain't liars anymore.
Yeah.
Why? Because they can't be. Because once they sign something with you, they're not going to ghost you if they really want to buy a house. They're not going to avoid you. They're not going to a FSBO if they've signed an agreement with you. And one of the great things, Haas, about having to have that buyer's agreement is, as you say, break the seal and get started doing it. And guess what? Going to that listing appointment and getting the listing signed is going to be a lot easier if you want to become a listing agent rather than a buyer's agent. Because guess what? You're doing the same thing. You're just saying a couple of different words.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Is there anything you want that you can help them with on this?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right in the sense of if anything has changed, it is the buyer's agent is more like a listing agent now, meaning
listing buyers.
Yeah, like you're listing buyers. There's a buyer presentation that sets the buyer's expectations, that showcases your expertise, that asks for the commitment. Like, it's no different than what we've been doing on the listing side. So if anything has changed, it is that the buyer's agents have to become more like a listing agent in the sense of the presentation, in the sense of asking for the commitment, establishing your value. If I go on a listing appointment, I'm usually competing against somebody. Like, I am showing them what I can do to help them. To do what? Sell their home fast and for the most amount of money. There's a presentation involved. I'm building rapport. I'm building the relationship. I'm finding common ground. I'm setting the seller's expectations. So that's been going on with sellers, forever. So what's different is you need to do that with the buyers, right? Showcase your expertise, build rapport, find common ground, get the commitment. And so to me, it's, that's the biggest change is you got to get good at getting the commitment.
You got really good at it. You got it really good.
And you do that by establishing your value.
Is there a methodology where a buyer agent can get better at this aside from doing more and more of them? Is it practice? Is it what kind of skill building should there be?
Confidence is the key. So the only way you become confident is by experiencing it. So I hate to say that. Like, I wish it was easier, but like, no, you can't just, you can't just practice and not experience it and expect to build a skill. The only way you build a skill is by doing it. Right? You can't read the book and think you know how to do it. You got to experience what the book is saying in order for it to become a skill. You got to experience it. That's why the breaking the seal is important, because you have experienced it. And so get after it. Have the conversation, meet with a buyer, experience it. And then why? Because here's what happens. Your confidence is going to increase. And what you need to do is you need your confidence to increase. If you don't have confidence when you're asking for a buyer commitment, you ain't going to get a buyer commitment. It's about confidence, belief in self. You have to believe in yourself so the buyer believes in you.
It's like the difference between the question, here, would you sign here or sign here?
Exactly.
There's a difference right there. So I want to get back to one other thing. Let me see if I can remember the question. Oh shit! I'm sorry. Just blew my mind with that. Had to do with calling Fizbos, and I forget what it was. Anyway, so we've talked about calling for listings. We talked about buyers. We talked about all that put together. What do you think is there an easy way to build your business here once you get started? Is there an easy way? Is it listings, making those calls? Is it getting buyer leads and work with buyers? Is there an easy way? Because a lot of brokerages up until now said you need to be a buyer's agent before I'll let you go out after listings, which I thought was always bullshit. But that's just me. Is there an easy way to get started in this business? What is the key to getting off your ass?
The key to getting off your ass is you don't have a choice. Like, you don't have a choice. So if you're comfortable, or you are giving yourself, you're not experiencing any pain to get off your ass, then you're probably not gonna get off your ass. Like, I don't know about you, Dave, but like, I had to get off my ass, otherwise I would fail, and I couldn't fail. So I would be willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. And so it's that. And the answer is yes, get off your ass, make the phone calls. Why? Because the phone calls lead to the conversations you have to have. Well, why do I need to have conversations? Because you're in commission sales, bro. You're in commission sales. So I would not forget that part. I think so many people, they have never experienced commission sales. Right. Like, that's the thing. They never experienced commission sales. Maybe they left the corporate America and they get a salary. Well, commission sales is this. It's down and dirty. It is the one who has the most contacts wins.
Without question. I mean, I have the example of this great agent who started his business in New Jersey, grew his business in New Jersey, and said, you know what? I want to go back home to Chicago. I use this guy as an example all the time. He calls for a couple hours in the morning, takes a break, follows up in the afternoon, and calls for another couple of hours. He built the business. He still runs a $20 million business in New Jersey while he's in Chicago building that same business out there. Yeah. Why is it? He's consistent. This has decided this is what he's going to do, and it's what he does. He's just committed to it. And I ask people to think about that commitment I just explained and, see how you can apply it yourself.
Here's the answer. Let me just boil this down. In real estate, your job description as a real estate agent is you are an appointment setter.
Yep.
Okay. So the faster you can realize that and embrace that your job as a real estate agent is to not sell houses. It's not to go show buyers. It's to set appointments, period. So we're a glorified appointment setter. So our job and our job description, everything we do is geared towards setting more appointments. And so it's that simple. Like, buyer, especially now with buyers, especially with sellers. So if our job is to set appointments every day, the other part of that job is to go on those appointments. So, which is a presentation. So you are a prospector and a presenter. And those are the two things that you need to be focused on. Prospecting for appointments. The goal of the goal of the prospecting is to set appointments. The goal of the appointments is to get the commitment. The rest of the business takes care of itself. Real estate's easy. It's finding the buyers and sellers. It's hard. Well, what do? You're an appointment setter, an appointment go-getter. That's your job. So a lot of agents fail in real estate because they never realize that.
That's right. That's right. Look, there's a lot of people that want to give into them too. Anyway, man, we're coming up. We're coming up on our time today, and I want to thank you so much for coming on. Your contact info is being scrolled on the bottom, Haas@HaasPratt.com, as well as HaasPratt.com, and at HaasPratt on Instagram. This man, for me, everybody in the audience that listens to this now or will listen to it later, has been such an influence on me. I might even sound like him when I do my sessions, right? And I hope that's okay with you, Haas, because there's a couple of guys. There's a couple of guys I emulate you, John, and Grant, and a few others that I just have really assimilated with. I want to thank you for being on. I got two more things before we finish today. One is, how do I help you grow your business?
Man, keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping other people. That's what I do. What I do is influencing influencers, like what you say. I mean, there's no question of the impact that I can make through people like you. So, you keep doing what you're doing. Next is send people to my website, HaasPratt.com. I have a free gift there for everybody. And that free gift is a free business plan. I want everybody listening to this to go get it because it's so invaluable to your business. It's chock full of strategies that you need to do to grow your business. And you can go to HaasPratt.com. It's right there at the top. Download that business plan, and you'll be glad that you did.
I'm actually going to do that myself as well. So
yes,
I want to do that. And last but not least, man, I mean, you've been on a couple of times. I think you got a couple of them, but now you haven't got this one yet.
I haven't got that one.
So this is the one that's coming to you. It's blue. It might even be like Dallas Cowboy blue. I don't know. I hope not.
Listing boss blue.
Yeah, listing boss.
That's this blue right here, man.
Okay, let's show that book. Show that book.
Listing boss.
So if I tell you what, I would have had it out myself, but I have packed to move, and I would have shown it. But thank you for showing that. Listing Boss by Haas Pratt. It is the #1 book that's going to help you build your business without question. And I would go buy that right now. Go on Amazon and then just read it. I've read it several times, so I love it. And there's so many things in here that we didn't discuss that'll blow your mind. Hey, Haas, thanks so much for being on. Please stay on for a couple minutes as we go out. Next week we have Jay Duran, who's the founder of Culture Matters. A little bit different subject that we're going to talk about, but Jay is going to be on. It's going to be an awesome broadcast. Looking forward to that for next week. Haas, keep up. Hopefully I'll see you in Miami in a few weeks.
Yes, sir.
And let's rock and roll, man. Thank you very much. Let's rock out and see you soon.